Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Specialist Eifling-Patterson, and I will be presenting today's brief on to educate or train leaders. Today's brief classification is unclassified. Let's get into it. On to the next slide. Here, we have the agenda plan for today's brief. As follows, it will start off with the introduction of what will be covered in today's brief. Then we will have a quick risk assessment, and then we will get into the meat of today's brief, which will start with leaders, on into educate leaders, then to the training leaders portion. And after all that, we will have a quick summary with references at the very end with all of the things I used to help build this brief. And at the very end, I will be answering questions on anything that was stated. On to the next slide. Risk assessment. Our risk assessment today, we are indoors. Not many hazards, but that being said, please watch out for any tripping hazards, be it loose cables or anything else in the way on the ground. And please place any bags of any kind in the back of the room to clear space for walking. In the case of a fire, please use the closest main exit to leave the building and contact leaders once safely outside. In the case of a shooter, we'll be utilizing the run, hide, fight method in that order to escape the threat. During the duration of this brief, make sure to have a source of water on hand and to stay awake. If you start to drift off or feel sleepy, please stand up. That being said, the overall risk assessment for today's brief is low. On to the next slide. We have our introduction. During my briefing today, I will inform you of the value of both educating and training leaders at every level. I'll be going over what makes a leader. I'll be going over the importance of being educated as a leader, as well as the importance of being trained as a leader. At the end, I will go over a quick conclusion of both subjects and explain the importance of both together. On to the next slide. Leaders. Leader development is achieved through the lifelong synthesis of the knowledge, skills, and experience gained through the training and education opportunities in the institutional, operational, and self-development domains, as stated in FM 6-22. Leaders are the backbone of the Army. In addition, they are also the upholders of the Army values set in place to build a professional and disciplined work mindset while guiding and mentoring soldiers. Leaders must be mentally, physically, and intellectually capable. Apart from their abilities, they must continue to progress in terms of carrying out their obligations and completing the activities that are expected of them. It is impossible to say which is more important, training or education, because both are required to build clever and strong leaders. Some teachings can only be learned in school, and some skills people can only learn through training. A lack of one will always result in a failure or insufficiency. In the military, the distinction between training and education is often blurred because both are critical in developing competent leaders. On to the next slide. Educate leaders. Education, defined by the Army, is a structured process to impart knowledge through teaching and learning, to enable or enhance an individual's ability to perform in unforeseen situations, as stated in AR 350-1, Army Training and Developing Leaders. Education is the building process of one's mental, moral, and artistic skills through teaching. Education is a long-term commitment that aids in the development of a soldier's awareness and character. The growth of the mind and one's critical thinking will aid a leader in their self-development, as well as create a positive self-image to oneself. These characteristics are important for leaders, as decision-making and social communication abilities are necessary for leaders to reach out to their soldiers. In addition, it will help leaders make solid decisions and take reasonable actions during everyday Army tasks. The Army offers a variety of educational programs, including the Basic Leader Course, Advanced Leader Course, Senior Leader Course, and many others to broaden knowledge among leaders. These NCO academies challenge individuals to step out of their comfort zone, take initiative, and lead by example. As well, the Army encourages all its members to seek a higher education in college so that we can all be active and critical thinking individuals in our daily Army tasks. On to the next slide. Train leaders. Training is what the Army does every day. Training builds confidence and competency while providing essential skills and knowledge resulting in unit readiness, as stated in AR 350-1, Army Training and Developing Leaders. As important as education is, so is training, and the knowledge we gain through schools and education is all used and enforced by training. All the things we learn are applied and put into practice. Army training in scenarios is aimed at on learning and built around potentially realistic situations and scenarios. Training centers are often a hands-on, live-action approach to training. Some examples of the training centers include the National Training Center, NTC, and Joint Readiness Training Center, JRTC. Online training is now a huge part in the Army with the advance in technology. Some examples of online training sites include Joint Knowledge Online, JKO, Blackboard, and Army Skillsoft. To develop expertise, leaders must be trained and regularly retrained. New skills must be put to good use, which can only be accomplished via regular practice. On to the next slide. Summary. This will be a quick summary of the two previous slides. Training and education are two sides of the same coin when it comes to the full development and qualities of a leader. Leaders who lack education will move and act like robots, where they can be easily persuaded and pushed around. Leaders who lack training will be physical bodies who are proficient at planning, but are somewhat underwhelming at performing. Uneducated people can be trained, but the overall scope of the task and mission will go over their head from the same aspect. Untrained people aren't regarded as educated and might fail to approach a task from the best perspective. Training without education is ineffective, and education without training is also ineffective. Through the practice of both, training and education, will one's ability as a leader grow and develop into a more competent leader and soldier. As an Army, we should expand on both fields to help provide outstanding leadership to instill the Army values for the Army to succeed in accomplishing the mission. On to the next slide. This is my reference page for the Field Manual 6-22 Leader Development and for the Army Regulation 350-1 Army Training and Leader Development that I used to help make this brief. If anyone is interested in looking into this more, then here are the resources. On to the next slide. Questions. At this time, if there are any questions regarding this brief, please ask them now. Great. That concludes today's brief. Thank you.